Hello and welcome to another writing vlog. I am going to be spending this writing vlog just trying to get back on track. I've had a pretty stressful last week and I've had lots of things going on, and quite frankly, writing has just taken a back seat. It's time for me to get back into a more solid writing routine and to spend more time writing than I have been, and I'm quite looking forward to it because I have been missing my writing a little bit lately. If you're new here, hello, my name is Stephanie and I am writing my very first book called Project Lily, and currently I'm on draft 4, and as of last night, I am on chapter 14. I haven't made much progress since my last vlog. I think I finished one chapter in like a week and a half. It's terrible, I know. But I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I have been spending a lot of time doing YouTube because that last video you saw was a week in my life, and it took an insanely long amount of time to both record and edit. So I'm not really sure there was going to be more weeks in the life in the future until I can get caught back up on videos. But as a result of the YouTube video stuff and other things going on, I just have barely been writing. I've been revising a little bit, but it's only been maybe a page a day. And that's kind of the same as writing. I'm writing about a page a day. It's progress and it's results, and I'm happy to have that. But I know I could do more if I had more time to write. Tonight, I'm going to have a full night writing session. I'm very excited about it. It's been quite some time since I've had an entire night just to write. Lately, I've only been able to squeeze in like an hour, so having several hours is going to be fantastic. I will also be celebrating tonight because I hit yesterday 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. I cannot thank you guys enough for subscribing and watching my content. It was such a joy to see myself cross that number, and I decided to celebrate. So earlier I went and got myself a fancy bottle of Italian wine and a piece of cake from the local bakery, and I'm going to celebrate tonight while I write. Since I'm in the middle of chapter 14, my goal tonight is going to be to finish writing it. Chapter 14, while there are elements that are the same from draft 3, in this draft I did have to finagle the plot a little bit to make it better. And as a result, I'm having to rewrite a lot of dialogue. Some action is a little different. And so this chapter is also taking me a little longer just because I'm trying to figure all this stuff out in my head. Typically when I sit down and write a scene, it goes a lot more quickly, but because this is draft 4, when I'm writing a new scene, I try to make it the same quality as every other scene and chapter in the book. As a result, I'm spending a lot more time fine-tuning dialogue, making sure I don't forget things, making sure sentences sound right, making sure everything flows. It's a lot more work. It's kind of like live revising. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I'm going to make it up. And I do that, and then I get through the chapter. And then when I'm done with the chapter, I will go through and revise the chapter again. I also think revising the chapter again is especially important when I've made kind of major changes to the chapter, just because it's so new and I haven't reread it and reworked it so many times that it just is another opportunity for me to catch mistakes. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to start writing and I can't wait to celebrate. I was looking forward to this evening so much. I was really happy that I had a full night to write and celebrating. My cake and wine were absolutely delicious, and it was really nice to have a little treat while I was writing. It's a little bit different than what I normally do, and so it just spiced up the night a little bit. It was definitely a change of pace, like a slow evening, and it's been different than the last several days. Not only have I been busy, but what's been really affecting me has been daylight savings time. In the winter, it would get dark around 4:30 and 5, and that would be my indication that it's time to stop whatever I was doing for the afternoon and go make dinner. And then I would spend the rest of the evening writing, so I'd start writing around 6:30 or 7. Well, now that it's light out much later, it gets dark here around 7:30, I have completely lost track of time. I now have been working up until like 5 or 6 in the afternoons. I don't even realize how late it's gotten because it's still light outside. And because of that, I haven't been having dinner till like 6:30 or 7, which is when I used to start writing. And now I've been settling to write typically around 8 o'clock. So on a daily basis, I've kind of lost at least an hour of time just because I can't keep track of what time it is due to daylight savings time. I know I'll get used to it eventually and I'll be able to get my schedule back on track, but it's just been a little bit frustrating because I had built such a solid writing routine before daylight savings time, and then when it happened, it just kind of all fell apart. I was really glad to have tonight to try and get back on track and to try and have a full night of writing. My plan over the next few days is to really keep track of time and to make sure I maximize the amount of writing time that I have. And tonight will be just the start of a very intense writing weekend. I've been quite the busy bee. I finished chapter 14 last night, finished writing it completely, and I have to admit I did stay up a little bit later than I wanted to so I could finish it. I was so close to the end, I was just like, I gotta finish it. And then this morning, surprisingly, I spent quite a bit of time working on my book as well. So I have revised about halfway through chapter 14 this morning. I had only sat down for my quick morning writing sprint, which is around 30 minutes. And I ended up working on it for much longer. And I was just in the zone and I lost track of time. But the end result was a really nice chunk of revisions done. Because I've been writing so much, I am going to be taking a break this afternoon. Yesterday was the first day of spring and I'm so excited because it's been so cold here. I cannot wait for the warm weather and spring and flowers and leaves on trees. I just can't wait. It is still quite cold here though, so I think I've got a little bit longer before that actually happens. But I decided I'm gonna go for a walk today and look for signs of spring. It will also help get me out of the apartment, and I can use that time to work on some things I need to figure out for the second half of chapter 14. I'm kind of struggling a little bit on how a few characters are acting throughout this scene. So I'm constantly pausing and trying to establish, well, is this something my character would do? Is this how they would act? And then I go through different scenarios in my head of how the scene would go if they did it. So I'd really like to get that worked through on my walk so that way when I sit down to write and finish later today on chapter 14, that I have a very clear picture of what I'm actually going to accomplish. I'm looking forward to my afternoon off, but also excited to hopefully finish up chapter 14 today. Chapter 14 is done, yay. I had a little bit of extra time this afternoon and I decided to spend that with writing. I completely revised the last 2 pages and that's done. And it's honestly quite a relief. I struggled a little bit with this chapter. What I'm struggling with is kind of my character's internal thoughts and what she's feeling. This is a very dialogue heavy scene. There's also a lot of information being dropped. And with so much going on, I have problems peppering in her thoughts along all of this other stuff. So when I was revising, I was trying really hard to think, okay, what is my character thinking? What is she doing? And I put a little bit in there. I honestly don't think it's enough, but I also wasn't exactly sure what to put in there because my character is learning this stuff for the first time and experiencing these things for the first time. And so everything's going to be kind of new. And the best way I can describe it is the situation's kind of unknown. Like there's a bunch of this information happening, but the characters aren't really sure what to do about the information quite yet. That's going to be the next chapter. And so is there really a lot of internal dialogue because she's really digesting what's happening? So anyway, that was kind of my struggle with chapter 14. I'm pretty happy with it. I think I figured out how the characters are behaving and I like where it's going. I think one character may have been a little too strong, but I want to sit on it and reread it when I do my reread to actually see if that's the case, because I have been so in my head about this that I'm not sure if what I think and feel is really what translates from the page. I'm going to take a quick dinner break and then I will get started on chapter 15 tonight. And I probably won't finish it because this is going to be another brand new chapter. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that got dropped, I need to kind of explain what's going on. A lot of the information that got dropped in chapter 14 in my original draft, or draft 3, this information was brand new. Chapter 14 kind of kicks off this series of chapters that happen over one event. And in draft 3, this event was like 7 chapters long and it was way too long. And so when I redid my plot grid and my outline, this event is now more, I actually can't quite remember. It's more like 3 or 4 chapters. It's about half the length that it was in draft 3. And as a result, I've had to take some things out and put some things in other places. And so this scene is going to start out as a new scene. I'm going to have a new conversation between some characters, but then I'm going to bring in an existing conversation that's already there from draft 3. And spoiler alert, it's between my 2 favorite characters to write. My characters who hate each other are going to be in the same scene again, so it's going to be a blast to write. I don't know if I will get to it tonight though or not. I'm going to try really hard because when I do get to these scenes with these 2 characters, I tend to get really excited and breeze through them. I'm going to try my hardest to get through the first half of the scene tonight so I can at least get started on the second half of the scene. I'm going to be honest, I just can't wait to get to that part where these 2 characters interact and hate each other. And yes, there will be more fighting. And hopefully I'll start writing that tonight. And if not, it will definitely be tomorrow. I am making really great progress on chapter 15. Last night I stayed up late again so I could get really far into it. When I wanted to stop, I was really close to when those 2 characters were meeting each other again, and I just wanted to get to that point. So I got to that point, wrote the first few lines of that, and then decided to stop because if I had kept going, I probably would have been up until 1 or 2 in the morning writing that entire scene. And I needed to go to bed. This morning, I did do another 30-minute writing sprint and again, made great progress on chapter 15. I think it makes such a difference in the writing when it's a scene you're really excited about writing versus a scene that's kind of like, it has to be in there for the story and you don't have a great idea of everything that's going on in there. I tend to struggle a little more with those kinds of chapters and scenes. This is not that case. Anyways, this morning I wrote pretty much the whole fight scene between these 2 individuals, had myself giggling a few times, and I am planning on finishing that up today. It is a nasty rainy day outside, so I'm not going to leave the house. I'm just going to stay here and focus on my writing. I will be doing a little bit of YouTube work. I have to finish up that week-long vlog that I did. It's almost finished. It's so close. There's just a few little things I have to tie up. So I'm going to work on that first this afternoon, and then I will move into writing. And hopefully tonight I will finish chapter 15. I'm still nowhere near getting chapter 15 done. Something really interesting happened last night. I need to give you a little bit of backstory first. So a few chapters from now, my main character, like two big things happened to her. And ever since even draft 3, like this has been months, I haven't been happy with the fact that these two kind of major things happened to her basically back to back. I have always felt they needed to be spaced out more, and it was just like too much too quickly, and I've never been able to figure it out. And I had one of these weird intuition drops last night where it just popped in my head that I needed to make one of these two things a choice so that things weren't just happening to her over and over, and that she actually chose a path. I was really excited about the possibility for her to decide her path, but at the same time, this meant that I would need to rewrite it because not only is it changing to a decision, but she needs to be presented the opportunity to make the decision, and she needs time to make the decision. And so that meant I would need to pull that closer. And unfortunately, I'm kind of like in a really tight time crunch in terms of all this stuff happening, and I can't move it around too much. And when I was writing the chapter last night, I thought to myself, this is actually the perfect opportunity for her to be presented the opportunity and for her to think about it. And what I've also liked is that when she makes this opportunity, there is consequences that she doesn't quite consider, and it just adds like a more interesting element to the story than just something happening to her and she's just like, okay, well, I got to deal with this. But anyway, so last night as I was writing chapter 15, I had gotten pretty much through the fight between the two people, and then I was like, okay, I need to go back and add in this decision. So I added in the decision last night, and that was basically writing a new part of the scene because I just had this idea. And so I spent most of the night writing that, and then after I wrote it, I decided to go back and revise the chapter because I could have continued on with the chapter and done the rest of it, but I have just been in this scene so much that I was like, I think it's just better for me to go ahead and revise it while my mind is fresh. And I added this new scene just to make sure everything flows and everything makes sense. So that's what I did last night. As a result, chapter 15 is still not done. I will be attempting to finish it today. I have one more scene that I need to add in, and then it will be complete. And unfortunately, this is also a new scene. I did not realize how much I had changed this series of scenes. I've had this event in my book since draft 1, but it has changed context, and what's happening inside the event has changed. And basically, I've had to rewrite this scene pretty much every time I go through it in the draft. And it's just funny to me because every time I come up to this scene or this event, I'm like, oh, it's going to be so easy. I've known about this event since the beginning of the book. I'll just rewrite a few things, and then because I've changed the plot or changed some important things, it ends up taking much, much longer than I anticipated. Like, these chapters are dragging, and it's taking me days and days to do a chapter. And this draft in general is dragging. I think I've been working on this draft for almost 3 months, at least 2 months. I'm probably somewhere in between 2 and 3 months. And I'm only like a third of the way done. So I've got so much more left to do. But at least I'm making progress. Like, I'm not very often sitting like upset about my progress. Like, what I'm doing is good work and everything's getting fixed. And that's another reason why I think it's taking so long, because I'm actually sitting down and fixing every major problem that I see related to the plot and the characters. I'm like, nah, I don't quite think this is right. How do I fix it? Because when I'm done with draft 4, I want this to be a pretty solid story. I want the progression in there. I want the emotional attachment of the reader to the characters. And I want the plot to flow and make sense. So I'm just taking this really seriously as I write. This may end up being like the most amount of work I've ever put into a draft, because I am just trying so hard to fix everything. But I'm really excited about the end product because I think it's going to be amazing. It won't be perfect, but at least it'll be in a place where I'm happy with it, and that's really great. Okay, so today is chapter 15. It's raining again, so I'm not really going to go outside. So it's a good writing day. I am going to finish up this last scene and hopefully revise it maybe I will finish chapter 15 today. I really hope I do. I would really love to close out this vlog by finishing chapter 15, so that's going to be my goal today. Well, chapter 15 is finally done. I spent hours working on this today, like a few hours in the morning, pretty much the entire afternoon. It's almost dinner time and it's done. Thank goodness. I worked so hard on this chapter, and unfortunately, there is a lot more hard work still to come. At the end of every chapter, I refer to my plot grid and fill it in and make sure that I have everything in the plot grid. And then I look at the next chapter to see what needs to happen and to make sure I have a good idea of what I'm going to write before I start writing. As I was looking through the plot grid, specifically at chapter 16, I took a look a little bit further at like chapters 17, 18, 19, and realized that these are all going to be brand new chapters. And I had not anticipated having so many new chapters in this draft. And the reasoning is because after draft 3, I replotted the story, because basically it was like the characters were here, then all of a sudden they were here and all this stuff happened, and it was just kind of like, what? And so I put in kind of this other thing or two to make it a little more interesting and to kind of build the momentum, because it was just kind of like, you were just like, okay, they're here and then they're there, but you didn't really get either the emotional connection or the time passing, and it was just very abrupt. So with my new stuff, it makes a lot more sense. It's more of a sequence of events leading up to like the end of the book. And in my head, it made perfect sense. And I was like, okay, yeah, no problem. They're going to go here and do XYZ. And now that I'm at this point, I'm like, oh no, they're going to do XYZ. And I have no clue like exactly how this chapter is going to play out. Because when I made my plot grid, I just put in the lines like what needed to happen. So for this character, they need to do XYZ. For the plot, XYZ needs to happen. I need to drop certain information for the world building. And I have an idea, like a very general idea of how to do this. But when it comes to like conversation and the flow of sequence of events in the chapter, I'm still not quite sure how that's going to go. And this has just been a really weird draft for me. Like, I'm in the 4th draft and I'm doing like first draft things, writing new chapters. And it's very, very strange. And I'm having kind of a hard time because I just want to get through it. I just thought I don't know what I envisioned in the revising process, but I thought it was going to be more of a line editing or fine-tuning paragraphs or sequences. And really, it's turned into me rewriting entire chapters and totally changing the plot and, updating characters' experiences. That's been my focus for this draft, has been the plot and the characters. So as a result, it's just been really slow. And I'm not used to going so slow on my drafts. Normally I speed right through them. But any progress is progress, and I will stick to that. I am really happy that I got a lot of time to work on my draft this weekend. It has been a while, probably like at least a week, since I was able to sit down and write all day. Like, today is the day where I got to sit down and write all day, and I'm going to continue to write tonight. I haven't had any distractions. I haven't had to do anything else personally, and it's just been so nice. Like, I just got so much done today and over the weekend, and I really, really miss days like these. I don't have days like these very much anymore. So it was just really nice, and it was good to see all the progress that I made. This is going to be such a long draft. There will be plenty of vlogs for me to talk about this. So I will see you in the next writing vlog.